Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is James Foster. I'll be conducting your speaking test today. Could you tell me your name?
My Chinese name is Tie Kai, and my English name is Jack. You can call me Jack.
Okay, thank you. And may I have a look at your ID?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
So, we'll start off just by me asking you some questions to learn a little bit about you.
Okay.
So, are you working or are you a student?
I'm working now.
Okay, and what kind of job do you do?
I am an English editor.
Okay, and have you been doing that for very long?
I have been doing that for more than 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and slightly different topic, could you tell me a little bit about your family and where you're from?
Actually, I'm from Shanxi province, the city of Datou, which is very famous for the coal and coal mine, you know? Yeah. And my hometown is very beautiful, and the people there are very friendly and kind. Yeah.
And a little bit about your family?
My family has 5 members: my parents and my big sister and my little brother and me.
Yeah. Okay.
And my parents are farmers, and my sister is a doctor, and my brother is a chef. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, moving on to a slightly different topic, do you do a lot of reading? Do you read newspapers or magazines?
Yeah, actually, I like reading very much. Because I think reading is a kind of a very good way of study, of learning. And just because I like reading very much, I have to stay alone with myself, for much time, because, reading takes a lot of time, always takes a lot of time. You have to stay alone and you have to focus. In that case, you can't go out and play with yourself, play with your friends. Because, when there are so many friends around you, they maybe make some noises and you can't focus on your reading. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so, but what kind of things do you enjoy reading?
Actually, some novels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just like The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Yeah, it's a very interesting book, I think. I have read it for 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, changing topic again slightly.
Okay.
What about sport? Do you play any sport or maybe a musical instrument?
Actually, I often play basketball with my friends. Yeah, and we like to challenge another team to play against us. It's very funny, and we always have a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I also play some instruments. Yeah. Actually, I can play the piano a little bit, but not very well. But one of my friends can play the piano very well, and I often go to his home, his apartment, and listen and sit there and watch him play the piano. It's very funny, and we always can have a good time.
Great. Yeah. And what kind of music do you like? And what kind of...
Actually, I like pop music very much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some there are so many famous Chinese singers. Yeah, and I like their songs very much.
Okay. Yeah. So, what I'd like to do is move on to the second element of the test.
Okay.
I'll use some paper and a pen for your notes.
Okay.
You need to talk for 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay.
About a party you have attended that you remember.
Okay.
So, I'll give you 1 minute to make some notes, starting now.
Okay.
And 1 to 2 minutes for your speech.
I think there's something wrong with this pen. Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay, so that's your minute.
Okay.
So, if you could please talk to me for 1 to 2 minutes about a party that you've attended that has stuck in your memory?
Okay. And I would like to tell you about a party which is I think which is very special, and which it means a lot to me, and I think I will remember it forever. It is the party. It is the New Year's Eve party during my high school. Actually, it was the last New Year's Eve party of my high school, because the next year all of us will graduate from high school. So it meant a lot to my classmates. And during that party, the classroom was decorated very beautifully, and with some colored balloons and colored lamps and some paper flowers. The desks were set in a circle, and after that, the monitor gave a very brief, congratulatory speech, and then the recreational programs began, and the recreational programs consisted of singing, dancing, and instrumental performance, and even some comic dialogues. And all of them were very funny, and we had a very good time. Actually, I sang an English song during that party, and after that, I won a lot of applause. And the climax of the party, I think, came when the clock struck 12 at midnight, because that means a new year was born. So at that time, my classmates exchanged greetings for happiness with each other, and just because it was the last New Year's Eve party, so I think it means a lot, and was very special for all of my classmates. And after we graduated, and we even actually we still talk about their party today, when we meet with my classmates during our free time, and that party gave all of us some good memory. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So let's just take these away.
Okay.
So what we'll move on to now is the last little section, and I'll just answer you some questions about the topic that we've just been talking.
Okay.
So, how do you think people celebrate differently around the world? I mean, you were mentioning New Year, so how do you think people celebrate New Year around the world?
Around the world? Actually, maybe I don't know many things about the people, how the people around the world celebrate the New Year, but I'm very familiar with Chinese people. Yeah, I'm very familiar with their ways, Chinese people's ways to celebrate the New Year. And during that day, during the New Year, most of the cities in China were decorated very beautifully, and the people we often go out and play and hang out with our friends and have a lot of fun. Actually, it means a lot to the people all over the world, I think, because a new year, it means the beginning of a new year. Yeah, that day means the beginning of a new year, and maybe we should make some new decisions and for the coming year, and some of us maybe even make some bigger plans for the coming year than the last one, and maybe we will think what I will get, or where I will go to travel to in the coming year. And that is kind of a way of celebrating the day, I think. That is one thing. And I think some people in other countries, they will go to the square and they will let off some pigeons or doves and to celebrate that day. And because the doves stand for peace or some friendship and happiness. Yeah. There are so many different ways to celebrate the New Year, I think. Yeah.
And do you think it's important to be with your friends or with your family during New Year?
Actually, if I have to choose, I like to choose both of them, both my friends and my family, because it is different to stay with your. These two feelings are very different. Staying with your family members is a kind of feeling, and stay hanging out with your friends is another kind of feeling. During my free time, actually, I prefer to stay with my friends. Yeah, because staying with my friends, I can do whatever I want. We always have some fun, and go to the movies, go to some interesting parties, and go to the night bar and play some computer games. Have a lot of fun. Such as the computer games, the Crossfire, or some little but funny computer games, such as Zombies versus Plants or Angry Birds. All of us like to play them.
Yeah, okay. And how do you think people will celebrate different days? So maybe birthdays, we've mentioned New Year, maybe a national day. How do you think different countries celebrate them? What do you think the differences are?
I like to take the National Day as an example, because the National Day actually I think is important for the people from all of the countries, all over the world. In China, actually, during the National Day, we will decorate the cities or even our houses with national flags. Yeah, because that is a very important, kind of important thing for our Chinese, and there are also some very interesting and significant, programs on the TV during that day, and such as some concerts and some other programs. And in the programs, many famous singers, maybe even some movie stars, famous movie stars will give some performance during the programs, and it's very. I think that it's like the whole world is happy during that day. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you much. Thank you very much. That's the end of the test.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So with Jack there, the part one, the first few questions, the answers he gave were a little bit short. They were one-word answers, which is not really what we're looking for within the exam. As he started to calm down a little bit, though, he thought about a further answer. So he then began to speak a little bit more, which was very good. Within the part two, again, here he'd relaxed some more, and he gave a very good full 2 and maybe 2.5 minute speech there, which is good. I actually had to stop him almost from going on too much. A couple of the words were misproduced. He was talking about doves rather than doves as birds of peace. Relatively small problem, but quite noticeable. Some of the other things he was saying that weren't grammatically correct were very beautifully, that again I picked up. But for time and fluency, it was very, very good. Within the part 3 section, again, good, full, extended answers. He showed a good range of vocabulary, a good range of grammar structure there. Some of the questions he was struggling to find an answer when I was asking him about how do they do it, how do they celebrate parties around the world. He explained, oh, well, I don't really know about the world, but I do know about China. And then as he continued, he'd obviously thought about it a little bit more and began bringing in some information about the West, or what he felt about the West. Again, some of his fillers and some of his expressions were very good. I think that kind of thing. So overall, I would give Jack a 6.5.
Okay, so here is a full test, kind of like a simulation test. I mean, the wording is a little bit off and not everything that happens is exactly correct, but maybe you can still get a good idea of what can kind of happen during the real test. Let's have a listen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is James Foster. I'll be conducting your speaking test today. Could you tell me your name?
My Chinese name is Tie Kai, and my English name is Jack. You can call me Jack.
Okay, thank you. And may I have a look at your ID?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, wonderful.
You'll notice this guy uses the word wonderful quite a bit.
So, we'll start off just by me asking you some questions that to learn a little bit about you.
Okay.
So, are you working or are you a student?
Alright, so this is a pretty standard introductory topic. What do you do?
I'm working now.
Okay, and what kind of job do you do?
I am an English editor.
And so far, all these answers are fine. You don't have to give very long answers. If they ask you what you do, just tell them what your job title is.
Okay, and have you been doing that for very long?
I have been doing that for
Notice this here? I've been doing that.
more than 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and slightly different topic.
Okay, so this here, slightly different topic. The examiner is not going to say this. They're going to tell you what the topic is. So here, I'm not sure what the topic is. Is the topic your family? Because it seems to me like there were two questions combined in one here. Remember, they're never going to do that. They will ask you single questions at one time.
Could you tell me a little bit about your family and where you're from?
Actually, I'm from Shanxi province, the city of Datou, which is very famous for the coal and coal mine.
Okay, so we see a relative clause there, which is very famous for, but then unfortunately he pronounces mine.
And coal mine, you know, yeah. And my hometown is very beautiful.
So this there's a lot of hesitation here, which is going to limit his score for fluency.
And the people there are very friendly and kind. Yeah.
And also a lot of yes and you knows.
And a little bit about your family?
Is this a question?
My family has 5 members. My parents and my big sister and my little brother and me.
Okay.
And my parents are farmers, and my sister is a doctor, and my.
I mean, this is not very fluent, is it? All this repetition. And if we look at the grammar here, okay, so here he uses a different word. Here he uses has, but here it's my family and my big sister and my little brother and me. That's not a sentence. My sister is, my brother, here there's no verb. My brother is chef.
Brother is
Oh, no, I'm wrong. There isn't is there. But again, it's the same kind of sentence, right? My sister is, my brother is.
Farmers, and my sister is a doctor, and my brother is a chef. Yeah.
Wonderful. So,
I love the wonderfuls this guy keeps on saying.
moving on to a slightly different topic, do you do a lot of reading? Do you read newspapers or magazines?
Again, why are there 2 questions in one? This should not happen.
Yeah, actually, I like reading very much. because I think reading is a kind of a very good way of study, of learning, and just because I like reading very much, I have to stay alone with myself, for much time.
Okay, so yeah, he's able to continue talking, but it's a little bit disfluent because of all the self-correction that's happening here. I have to stay with myself for much time. Usually people are not going to say much time, like for a long time perhaps. And there are these mispronunciations. Like when he says reading, to me it sounds like really.
Stay alone with myself, for much time, because reading takes a lot of time. Always takes a lot of time. You have to stay alone and you have to focus. In that case, you can't.
But he does use some good discourse markers. Like here he says, in that case. I mean, that's a plus.
In that case, you can't go out and play with yourself, play with your friends.
The self-correction again.
Because when there are so many friends around you, they maybe make some noises, and
they may make some noise. Make some noise, not noises.
And you can't focus on your reading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait a second, what happened there? You can't focus on your reading. He didn't say I, did he? Nope. The focus on, yeah, that's pretty good as far as vocabulary goes. To focus on something.
Reading,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay, and so, but what kind of things do you enjoy reading?
Actually,
a lot of his answers start off with actually.
some novels.
Mm-hmm.
Some novels. All right, so here we saw some intonation in his voice.
Yeah, just like The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Yeah, it's
Cool that he has actually that name at his disposal. He can throw that name out there.
very interesting book, I think. I have read it for 3 times.
Ooh, but then he uses this. So, I read it 3 times, or I've read it 3 times, but not 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, changing topic again slightly.
Okay.
What about...
All right, the examiner's not going to say, so changing topics again slightly. They're just going to say, now let's talk about, and then they're going to tell you what the topic is.
Sport. Do you play any sport or maybe a musical instrument?
What is the topic here? These two things are so different. Is the topic sport or is it music? This is kind of weird. What is he supposed to talk about here? Is he supposed to talk about the first or the latter? You're not going to get 2 topics in one. It's so strange.
Actually, we often
Notice the actually again.
I often play basketball with my friends. Yeah, and we like to
Even a relatively simple phrase like we like to, he says it 3 times.
challenge another team to play against us. It's very funny, and we always
I think it means fun, not funny.
have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I also play some instruments. Yeah. Actually, I can play the piano a little bit, but not very well. But one of my friends can play the piano very well, and I often go to his home, his apartment, and listen and sit there and watch him play the piano. It's very funny. And
again with the funny, I think he's confusing fun and funny again here, unless the way the guy plays is actually hilarious.
we always can have a good time.
Great.
Yeah.
And
We can always have a good time. We can always have a good time. So yeah, pronunciation, except for this, he really has a problem with saying the word and sometimes he has some other problems with vowels. But a lot of Chinese speaking people have this, and I mean you can still understand what he's saying, right? The same goes for the grammar. there are some mistakes, but you can understand what he's saying.
Great.
Yeah.
And what kind of music do you like? And what kind of...
Actually, I like
Actually, again, that's an overuse, right?
pop music very much. Yeah, and some there are so many famous Chinese singers. Yeah, and I like their songs very much.
Okay. So, what I'd like to do is move on to the second.
Now, I just look at the time here. I would guess, I don't know, I guess he spoke for about, it's less than 3 minutes. So I don't know why the part 1 is so short. I don't think it's even 4 minutes. It's a little bit difficult to tell from this timeline. But it looks like it's less than 3 minutes. I don't know why he didn't ask him more questions.
Second element of the test.
Okay.
I'll use some paper and a pen for your notes.
Okay.
You need to talk for 1 to 2 minutes
Okay.
about a party you have attended that you remember.
Okay.
So, I'll give you 1 minute
I actually remember this topic.
to make some notes, starting now.
Okay.
And 1 to 2 minutes.
Just be aware, the examiner is not going to say starting now. When they give you the topic, when they hand it over to you and they say, I would like you to describe blah, 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 that is when your preparation time starts. They don't announce it like this guy does.
I think there's something wrong with this pen. Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay.
Here's the 1 minute prep time.
Okay, so that's your minute.
Okay.
So, if you could please talk to me for 1 to 2 minutes about a party that you've attended that has stuck in your memory.
Now again, the wording here is different. Originally he said a party that you've attended that you remember well, and now it is about a party that you've attended that has stuck in your memory. I don't know why the wording is different suddenly.
Okay. And I would like to tell you about a party which is I think which is very special, and which it means a lot to me.
So there's so much hesitation, actually maybe it's not hesitation, repetition here, that it kind of makes it a little bit difficult to follow what he's saying, just a little bit, not much, a little bit.
And I think I will remember it forever. It is the party, it is the New Year's Eve party during my high school.
Okay, it's not during my high school, it's like when I was in high school.
Actually, it was the last New Year's Eve party of my high school, because the next year, all of
The following year. He's talking about this as though it's true at the present. I mean, if you were to graduate, let's say in 2020, you would say next year. But he's talking about what happened in the past. So the following year, all of us would graduate from high school. I mean, he's not a high school student right now.
us will graduate from high school. So it meant a lot to my classmates. And during that party,
all right, so it's a good way to start talking. I don't know what the cues are, but presumably one of the cues is what happened during the party. So what happened during the party is logically introduced with this phrase, and during that party, blah, 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 blah.
the classroom was decorated very beautifully.
Okay, so he's trying to use the passive here, but it sounded to me like he said was decorating instead of was decorated.
And with some colored balloons and
I don't know if he said in. It's kind of hard to make out.
colored lamps and some paper flowers. The desks were set in a circle.
Maybe the desks were moved in a circle.
And after that, the monitor gave a very brief congratulatory speech.
I'm not sure. Monitor. I mean, there are monitors in school, but I'm not sure. I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just not exactly sure why there would be a monitor at a party.
And then the recreational programs began, and the recreational programs consisted of singing, dancing, and instrumental performance.
All right, now here's something good. He says instrumental performance. Those are words that go together well.
And even some comic dialogues.
Dialogues. I'm not sure what comic dialogues are. Is it like skits?
And all of them were very funny, and we had a very good time. Actually, I sang an English song during that party, and after that I won a lot of applause.
I won a lot of applause. Maybe I received a lot of applause.
And the climax of
That's a good word to use, climax.
the party, I think, came when the
Actually, this is kind of good. The climax came when he uses climax and came together. That's pretty good.
clock struck 12
Clock struck 12. That's another good phrase.
at midnight, because that means a new year was born.
But here he mixes his tenses. That meant a new year was born. A new year was born. I don't think people usually say that. Maybe a new year has arrived. Actually, if you really want to use a good phrase, that heralds a new year. It heralds a new year. That would be a great way of saying that.
So at that time, my classmates greeted, exchanged greetings for happiness with each other. And
they greeted. Wait, what? My classmates greeted, exchanged greetings for happiness. Okay, so I think what he's trying to say is my classmates exchanged happy tidings.
Greetings for happiness with each other. And just because it was the last New Year's Eve party, so...
Okay, so this is the 2-minute mark here. Now he's been talking for 2 minutes.
I think it means a lot. And it means a lot and was very special for all of my classmates. And after we graduated, and we even still talk about their party today when we meet with my classmates during our free time. And that party gave all of us some good memory. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so he spoke for, I guess, 2.5 minutes. I don't know why he is allowed to speak for such a long time. It would never happen. You'd be cut off at 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So let's just take these away.
Okay.
So what we'll move on to now is the last little section, and I'll just answer you some questions about the topic that we've just been talking.
Okay.
That we've just been talking. Okay, so the wording here is a little bit irregular, but here comes, well, I don't know what the topic is. He didn't announce what the topic is. He just goes into a question. How do people celebrate what?
So how do you think people celebrate differently around the world? I mean, you were mentioning New Year, so how do you think people celebrate New Year around the world?
This is not a realistic question. The IELTS exam is not an exam of your general knowledge. You're not expected to know this. No, they'll never ask you this.
Around the world?
Actually, again.
Actually, maybe I don't know many things about the people, how the people around the world celebrate the New Year, but I'm very familiar with Chinese people.
If by some miracle you are ever asked this question, or a question where they ask you about what happens in other countries, do what this guy's doing and just say, well, I don't know, but I'm familiar with what happens in my country, and then just talk about that. That's fine. But that'll never happen.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with their ways, Chinese people's ways to celebrate the New Year.
Their ways to celebrate, yeah, okay. Although I would say their way of celebrating the New Year.
And during that day, during the New Year, most of the cities.
Let's change this to most cities in China. Most cities in China.
In China were decorated very beautifully, and the people we all go out and
We'll all go out. Okay.
Go out and play and.
Yeah, see, in English, play doesn't mean what it means in Chinese. So, if people go out during New Year, no one is going to call that playing. Playing is like what kids do. Unless you play like a sport or a musical instrument or a game.
Hang out with our friends and have a lot of fun. Actually, it means a lot to the people all over the world.
Again, there should be no "the" here. So people all around the world, because you're not talking about specific people, right?
Because a new year, it means the beginning of a new year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that day means the beginning of a new year, and maybe we should make some new decisions and for the coming year. And
coming year is good.
When some of us maybe even make some bigger plans. For the coming year than the last one.
Make some bigger plans for the coming year than the last one. It's a little bit unclear to me what he means by this. Than we made for the previous year, I guess.
And maybe we will think what I will get or where I will go to travel to.
Where I will go to travel to. Where I will travel to.
In the coming year. And that is kind of a way of celebrating the day, I think. That is one thing. And
I don't know how long he's been talking for, but this is a long answer for part 3. Good grief. The examiner would want you to talk about a variety of topics, but this is not happening here. He's just talking about New Year.
Some people in other countries, they will go to the square.
A square?
And they will let off some pigeons or doves.
Let off and release. What they do with those birds is they release them.
Pigeons or doves, and to celebrate that day, and because the doves stand for peace
stand for, that's good, like represent,
some friendship and happiness.
No in here. So the doves stand for peace, friendship and happiness.
Yeah. There are so many different ways to celebrate the New Year, I think. Yeah.
And do you think it's important to be with your friends or with your family during New Year?
Actually, if I have to choose, I like to choose both of them, both my friends and my family.
Sure, if you think they're both important, why not say that?
Because it is different to stay with your, these two feelings are very different. Staying with your family members.
Here we should just have a noun, staying with your family members, because you're talking about a feeling, right? So it's got to be a noun, since feeling is a noun.
Is a kind of feeling, and stay hanging out with your friends is another kind of.
And this should also be hanging.
Kind of feeling. During my free time, actually, I prefer to stay with my friends. Yeah, because staying with my friends, I can do whatever I want. We always have some fun, and go to the movies, go to some interesting parties.
Interesting parties.
and go to the night bar and
I don't know what a night bar is. Maybe that's something they have in China. Night bar? Aren't bars usually open at night?
play some computer games.
At a bar? I'm a little bit confused about this.
Have a lot of fun, such as the computer games, the Crossfire, or the
Computer games in the crossfire. I'm not sure what that means. Is that the name of a game?
computer games, the Crossfire, or some little but funny computer games, such as Zombies versus Plants
Versus? That's pretty good.
or Angry Birds. All of us like to play them.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. And how do you think people will celebrate different days? So maybe birthdays, we've mentioned New Year, maybe
Yeah.
So maybe birthdays will be mentioned you yet. I don't even know what the question is.
National Day. How do you think different countries celebrate them? What do you think the differences are?
I like to take the National Day as an example.
Ooh, this is good. So I'd like to take X as an example. It's a good way to introduce the example.
Because the National Day actually I think is important for the people from all of the countries, all over
All of the yeah, okay. All over
all over the world. In China, actually, during the National Day, we will decorate the cities or even our houses with national flags.
national flags. I don't know. It's the same flag, right? So I would say the national flag, since it's the same flag.
Yeah, because that is a very important, kind of important thing for our Chinese, and there are also some very interesting and significant, programs on the TV during that day, and such as some concerts and some.
Such as, okay, it's a way to introduce the first example.
Other programs, and in the programs, many famous singers, maybe even some movie stars, famous movie stars, will give some performance during the programs.
Give some performances.
And it's very. I think that it's like the whole world is happy during that day. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you much. Thank you very much. That's the end of the test.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so there is the response. All right, so let's see if he deserves the 6.5. Okay, so that guy already talked about the short answers in part 1. The grammar here, he made a mistake. He tried the present perfect tense, didn't really work out so well. This is good. Which is famous? I think coal is a pretty good word to use. Here there's pretty much no grammar. It's a good way of, okay, so here he should have used the gerund, because reading takes you have to stay alone. I did mention the focus a lot before. Can't focus on, okay, so I mentioned this already. He read it 3 times. I've read it 3 times. I guess challenge is challenge 2. That's pretty good. He confuses funny and fun, and he did that twice. Like in this answer, there's nothing that really stands out. Everything is pretty simple. Let's go to part 2. Part 2, we saw some good vocabulary actually. I mean, here he tries the passive. It didn't quite work out for him, but I mean, you can describe how the place was decorated, and he did quite well. This is good. Congratulatory speech. I mean, he uses this as an adjective. Recreational performance, I thought was also pretty good. Also, instrumental performance. Won a lot of applause. Received. Climax is a good word. The clock struck, that's a good word. So yeah, I guess he does show that he can use some idiomatic vocabulary. Exchange greetings, those go well together also. And actually, I mean, apart from the hesitation and the repetition, which kind of made his point difficult to follow, but the grammar is not bad. Grammatically, there aren't many mistakes, and he did collocate a lot of words very well together, even though there are some things that he says that are not appropriate. Let's see what happened here. The cities are decorated very beautifully. Alright, so that worked out well for him. Hang out with her friends, that's not really anything. Make some decisions. He uses the present tense. Here he mixes it with the future. Like I said, coming year I thought was pretty good. Actually, square, that's not a bad word to use either. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't think he should have said pigeons. But the fact that he knows pigeons counts in his favor, I think. The doves stand for peace, although it's mispronounced. It's a good sentence. So did he say in? I think maybe I just didn't correct this. I think actually he did say that right. Okay, so if we look at the requirements, if you look at the criteria for grammar band 7, we did see complex structures and there was some flexibility. There were actually quite a few error-free sentences, and yeah, he still did make mistakes, it's true. But yeah, he might have qualified for a 7. And if we look at the criteria for vocabulary band 7, he was able to discuss a variety of topics flexibly. It says variety of topics. It doesn't say all topics. Remember in part 1, that was a bit short. I talked about collocation already. Less common vocabulary, yes. Idiomatic vocabulary, well, yeah, there was, it says some awareness. It doesn't say how much awareness. So, yeah, it could be a weak example of a band 7 for vocabulary also. But for fluency and coherence, there's just too much hesitation. It's got to be a 6. And also, pronunciation, he didn't show any features for the band 8 criteria, so it's got to be a 6. Can't be a 7.